Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 21, Mixing Client and Server-Side Code. You onComplete me. Okay, it's Thanksgiving week in the U.S. I thought I'd take a minute to give some thanks to a couple guys who have helped me out recently. The first is Mark Hughes, who's a good friend of mine and has a blog at dominoextnd.blogspot.com. And he sells an app as well too, called Itana at hughesconnect.com. And what Itana is an XPages database that you can put on your server, and it'll reach into your mail file to expose your tasks and basically your to-dos and things like that into a web app. So it's not a local app; it's a web app for your iPhone, and there's also an interface for your iPad, and it's really quite clever. And it's all done with XPages, so cool. We like that. Another guy I want to give some thanks to who helped me out with the date problem is Nathan T. Freeman, and he's got a blog at ntf.gbs.com, and I don't really have any pretty pictures for him because he's Nathan T. Freeman. So what else is there to say? If you know about my podcast, you've probably heard of him. He's a great Domino developer as well, and he's very helpful as well. So he's was very kind to help me with this bug alert today. So I had a bug with XPages, and here's what I was trying to do. I was trying to work with dates, and what I wanted to do is basically this. I wanted to take @now and assign it to a backend uh, field on a backend document. And I tried, new comment as being the name of my document object, replace item value, the field name, comment date, @now. And server-side JavaScript said no soup for me. So it didn't work. And I could swear it worked before, but it wasn't working that night. And quite honestly, I was just frozen. I couldn't think of anything else to do here. So what I did was I pinged Nathan, and he said, well, why don't you try using a date-time object? And I said, duh, I should have thought of that myself. So here's what I ended up doing. So I created a new var, a new date, date time, and I used session.createDateTime today. And then I used set now, and then I assigned that object to the backend field, and that worked just fine. So you would expect to be able to do this portion from LotusScript easily. The using the @now like that, you wouldn't expect to do necessarily, but you should be able to do it in server-side JavaScript. So I did reach out to an IBM contact who said, yeah, it's probably a bug, and then actually did come back and said it looks like it's fixed for 8.5.3. So hopefully it is, and we'll be able to do that in 8.5.3. Now, why didn't it work before? Well, your guess is as good as mine, but what you have to remember with the functions in server-side JavaScript, the straight ones that have been given to us, is I think a lot of those are Java representations of it. So @now actually returns, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will, it'll return a Java date, basically, which may be different than the notes date time, date of that nature. So that may have been the issue there. I know like an @unique, if you do an @unique in LotusScript, you get like, for me, it'd be like DLEY dash, some kind of timestamp or so. But if you do an @unique in server-side JavaScript, you get something weird. Just this long string of whatever it is, and I don't even know what it is. So if you want to get the traditional @unique result in server-side JavaScript, what you do there is you do session.eval @unique, and then what that'll session.eval is kind of like the LotusScript eval, but it'll use basically the @formula call of that particular @formula and give you the results that you would expect. And I don't think there's a high performance penalty for that. I could be wrong, but I don't think there is. So that's always an option too. So if I would have wrapped this @now in session.eval, that may have worked, and I probably should have tried that before this show, but I didn't. Okay, moving on to the meat of the show that I wanted to show you, which is the piece that Mark helped me with, is mixing client and server-side code. And I don't really have any slides for this, so I think we'll just go right to the demo. Okay, here's a web app I'm working on, and what this page in particular does is it tracks tasks. So here's a task for a particular project, and what I want to be able to do is add a comment, running history of comments, and record comments and time against this task. So I can track how long things take. And so what I want to have here is click on Add Comment, and something, the fields that I type in, appear like I want. But I got to click in the comments. It doesn't automatically move the cursor to this comments field. Okay, well, and that kind of gets old after a while. So I want to correct that. Now, a better way to do this would probably be to use a dialog box, but quite honestly, after many attempts, I still have not gotten it to work in this particular application. And that'll probably be a show for another day. But for now, let's just worry about moving the cursor from here to here. So how do you do that? Okay, well, let's go into Designer. And this is a custom control for this comments section. And all the Add Comment button does currently is it puts into the view scope a variable called Add Comment, sets it to true, and then does a partial refresh of basically this panel. And there's code in there that once the view scope is true, then to show it. And then the cancel button, hides it and stuff like that. There's nothing too special about it. But the problem was, how do you move the cursor? Because there's no server-side JavaScript call to get there. And quite honestly, I'm not a client-side JavaScript expert. I thought at first, you could put something in the client side, but then I remembered, well, I think client side triggers first before server side JavaScript. So that's not going to help me. So what you can do is you can come down to all properties of the button, and what we're looking for is the onComplete method. And what onComplete does is basically after the server side JavaScript fires, it gives you a chance to run client side JavaScript. Great. So all you have to do is put code into the onComplete method. Seems easy enough, but it's not. So why isn't it? Because if you click on the Add Comment, all properties, and you go to find onComplete, the problem is you're not going to find it because it's not here. Okay, here's a nice little event section, but it's not here. So what you can do to actually find it is you actually have to come over here in the outline to button Add Comment, which is the name of this button. And if you come down here and click on Event Handler, now you can find it. So now it's the properties of this event handler. So you click here first, and then you can see onComplete. Stage 1 done. Now the next stage of kind of confusion is usually, by habit, you go to this blue diamond and you just click compute, and then you put your code in. But this is the server side language still. So that, again, that doesn't help us. So you have to click this little icon here next to it, and then that gives us the client side area. So we paste our code in, and all this is doing a document.getElementById, and then calling the focus method of that element. So put the focus there. What this technique here is, a lot of people have blogged about this, because XPages will change control names at render time, because a control might be in a repeat control, and it might be several times on a page or so. So it gives its own name that you really can't predict. Maybe it changes day of the week. I don't know. So what you do is you use this technique here, this ID colon, and then your control name, and you put it in the these braces and with the pound sign here. And what happens is at render time, then this area gets replaced by the actual control name. So that's a good way to kind of feed your client-side JavaScript. So we say OK here. We click here. And if we go back to our web page, and then let's refresh this. Come back in here. Now if we click Add Comment, the cursor's already there, and we can start typing and then finish it up. And that is onComplete. And that's the demo. If you have any questions for me, here's how you can contact me. And I thank you very much for your time.